After further review, 104.5 ESPN, Matt Moscana on the mic over there. So we're talking about Sean Payton returning to New Orleans. Now, I talked about this months ago, where I said I thought that we're not hearing enough about the possibility of Peyton returning to New Orleans and the fact that he could just come back. You know, he could have just taken a year off. It could have been the plan the whole time. And given the right infrastructure, he may want to come back to New Orleans on some like mega deal. Now, apparently, someone broke the news that this could be a possibility, which, of course, if you're watching this channel, you knew that, well before the mass media. But what's new? So let's go ahead and see what they're saying about this possibility.
Had his column at NOLA.com on Sunday that caught a lot of people off guard. And to his credit, Jeff said it was one of the hardest columns he's had to write, in large part because he was talking about a new coach for the Saints when the Saints have a coach.
They do not.
And a coach who, by all accounts, is a good guy in Dennis Allen, who's liked and respected.
Man, I hate this shit. I hate whenever it's like, oh, it's so hard to write. Dennis Allen is a great guy. I don't care if he's a great guy. If he's a great guy, vote for him for mayor. Vote for him for president. Send him a bouquet of flowers. Get him a Christmas present. The fact of the matter is that he has one of 32 jobs that exist in the world. There's only 32 of these jobs in the entire world. And he's getting paid a lot of money to be one of those 32. If he can't be one of those 32, which I'll go ahead and tell you this, spoiler alert, he can't be one of those 32, then get him out. There's other people who can be. Get someone else in. Spoiler alert number 2, there's other really great guys. There's other really good people out there who also can do the job. And he ain't one of them. So don't feel bad. Get his ass out. Feel bad that 80,000 people or 65,000 people have to sit in the Superdome every week and watch Dennis Allen throw their season down the toilet. That's what you should feel bad about. And that's what I feel bad about.
Expected by his players, the organization, the fans, all that sort of stuff. So it is awkward sometimes when you're talking about replacing a guy or firing a coach or something like
Get
that
his ass
when he has
out
a
of
job.
here. Get him
And I can
out.
respect that from a guy who's very professional in the way Jeff does things, not wanting to put that out there. But at the same
Get him
time,
out
it's
of here.
becoming an unavoidable conversation about Sean Payton, who continues to insist he's going to coach again next year. And when Jeff has gotten information like he shared with us earlier in the show that Sean Payton has been evaluating rosters, including the Saints roster.
So when I broke the news to all of you that I thought that Sean Payton there's a chance he'd come back to New Orleans, it is completely reliant on a conversation with Mickey Loomis where Sean is going to have to be reassured that he's walking into a good system. Why would he come to New Orleans? And if Andy Dalton or Jameis Winston is what he has to work with, why would he do that? He wouldn't do that. Why would he come here if his other option was Justin Herbert, right? I think Arizona is not an option anymore because of Kyler Murray's injury. But if he's staring at the Chargers and he's staring at 8 years or whatever of Justin Herbert, I'd take that, right? Now, if Mickey Loomis said, look, Sean, how about this, pal? We will do everything we can do to go get Lamar Jackson. Or we'll do everything we'll do. Well, here's the plan, right? And if Sean says, I like that plan, I like what I'm hearing, big guy, I like that a lot. If that's the case, then I think Sean would come back. Now, I think it's also reliant on the monies. For someone like Sean Payton, who did what he did for the team, took a year off, I don't think it would be crazy to offer him the same kind of deal the Raiders offered Gruden, which was like, whatever it was, 10 years, $120 million, and equity in the team. I think giving Sean a basically lifetime contract to coach the Saints makes a lot of sense because he is a figurehead for the city and the team, especially in a time where the team needs a figurehead and needs somebody. We don't have Drew Brees anymore, right? We don't have that. We don't have that face of the franchise. Who the hell is the face of the franchise right now? The only two people I can think of is Cam Jordan and Alvin Kamara, and Alvin Kamara gets eight touches a game because of Dennis Allen and Pete Carmichael. So you lost a lot of faith from the city, and having Sean Payton leading that charge would give them a lot of faith. Now, I think there's a lot that has to be done because obviously we don't have a first-round pick, and Payton's not going to come to lose that first year. So is there someone like Aaron Rodgers is a possibility? Like, let's be real here. Aaron Rodgers is a possibility where if Green Bay wants to move on and if Green Bay wants to go with Jordan Love, matching up Aaron Rodgers with Sean Payton is a real possibility. The other possibility, I mentioned Lamar Jackson, but that's kind of a stretch because you're going to pay him $250 million. I think the two people that make the most sense to bring Sean Payton back is Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. Brady wants to get out of Tampa. Bowles is a disaster. Leftwich is a disaster. The whole team is a disaster. They almost were together in Miami with that whole deal that got Stephen Ross in trouble with Brian Flores, that whole situation. Those two quarterbacks, I think, want to go somewhere and win. And they want to go somewhere with an offensive coach, and they're on these like 1 year, 2 year sweetheart deals where they're just chasing Lombardis. I think Peyton, because he knows he can't get a young quarterback, right? We don't have a first round. If we had the third overall pick, I think he'd be like, hell yeah, let's roll. Me and CJ Stroud, we're about to do it. Me and Bryce Young, we're about to do it. I think he knows the next best option is let's see what I can do with Aaron Rodgers. Let's see what I can do with Tom Brady. So that's the two ways I think that Loomis can get Peyton is either A, we'll go get a Lamar Jackson, we'll go make a move, we'll go make a huge splash, or we're going to bring in one of these older guys and give you a year, 2 years to see what kind of magic you can work.
The Saints have Sean Payton's rights for the next 2 years. Mickey Loomis is not likely to let Sean Payton coach against the Saints, meaning in the division at potentially Carolina, although Steve Wilkes is doing a great job and might be in line to get that job.
Like, that doesn't make any sense. I've heard the Carolina things. Like, why would Peyton do that? Why would Peyton want to go to Carolina where, I mean, what's he got? Like, what do you have in Carolina? What would be enticing him to go to Carolina? I don't see anything. And the picks or the fact that the Saints do control Peyton for 2 years is important because if you're Sean Payton, right, would it make sense to you to go to, let's say to Carolina? Would it make sense to go to Carolina if you also if you were going to a team that's giving up like first round picks? Wouldn't you want to go to a situation where that's not happening? You don't want to gut the team you're going to, so that's another part of it where it's like, it's very weird to imagine he's like, yeah, hell yeah, I'm going to the Chargers, but I won't have first round picks for 2 years. Like that is a wrinkle in it as well.
But I'll say this. I had not really considered the possibility of Sean Payton coming back to the Saints.
It just shows how far ahead I am of just everybody.
At no point did I consider that possibility. But the reason isn't because I thought he wouldn't come or the Saints didn't want him back or anything like that. It was that I couldn't fathom the idea of Dennis Allen being a one and done.
That is stunning. Think about that. The greatest coach in franchise history. Probably one of the three best coaches of the last 20 years. Okay. What's standing in the way of this guy coaching the team is because of the high hopes you had for Dennis Allen. Let's say Dennis Allen goes 10-7. Let's say he gets to the playoffs, he's a couple games over 500, whatever. And let's say Peyton says, hey, Loomis, I want to come back. I know I took a year off. I want to come back. I hope to God Loomis would tell Dennis Allen to hit the bricks. I mean, like, you're talking about if Sean Payton, if he's in the NFL next year, what do you think he is? The third, fourth best coach in the NFL? Where's he at? Andy Reid, Kyle Shanahan, like where are you putting Peyton? No worse than fifth, right? So what situation would it be where Loomis would say, you know what, Sean, I know you want to come back, but we have Dennis Allen. So sorry, pal. So it's like, even I understand what he's saying. He's saying that I couldn't fathom Dennis Allen being this bad. He's a one and out. But even if he wasn't bad, right? Like, even if that qualifier isn't there, Sean just wanting to come back is enough for Dennis to be gone. Honestly, I know this is like a knee-jerk reaction thing. But besides winning a Super Bowl, I don't think there's anything Dennis Allen could do this year where if Peyton said, hey, it's either me or him, Loomis is going with Allen. So it's not even contingent on Allen being good or bad this year.
So even with some,
I'm really just kind of letting it rip over here, but that was my whole point of why I thought Peyton was going to come back. My entire argument months ago, whenever I talked about this on here, was that that's the only thing that made sense for why Loomis was okay with going with Allen, Carmichael, and Dalton and Winston. Is that my whole argument was that if you're Loomis, you take the year and you say, let's get the books right, let's get the contracts right, let's not make any big moves, let's not make any big splashes, because there's a chance that after this year, this hiatus, Peyton can come back. And when he comes back, we have to be ready to make these moves. We have to be ready to make these huge splashes. So let's not give Dennis Allen and Pete Carmichael toys. Let's just keep everything as it is right now. Let's try and go 500. Let's try and sneak a division. Let's try and be competitive, and we'll figure this stuff out whenever Peyton makes his move. I fully believe that if Peyton says, Pete, sorry, pal, I'm going to coach the Rams. Sean McVay retires. I'm going to LA. I'm going to the Rams, or I'm going to the Chargers, or I'm going to this team. I fully believe if he does that, Loomis will say, all right, we got to make a move. We got to start doing stuff. And he's going to start moving pieces around, and he's going to start making his own decisions, which will include firing Dennis Allen. So I think that's the 4D chess that Mickey Loomis has been playing, is waiting and allowing Peyton this year, because I think Peyton knew it was going to be a down year too without Breeze, letting him do that, and then we rock and roll.
some of the early season struggles. When we started hearing Sean Payton do interviews and reports come out about the possibility of Peyton coaching next year and his desire to coach next year, I emotionally was at a point where I had separated from Sean Payton. I just realized super grateful for the 16 years, bringing respect, credibility, a winning culture to New Orleans, the first ever Super Bowl championship, so many great Sundays, and super grateful for it, but understanding that the time had come and Peyton will coach somewhere else. And I'm okay with that. And for this franchise right now, what I want is the draft capital. That had always been my stance. Because the Saints have a coach. I don't want to, this isn't exactly apples to apples, but it's like when sometimes you hear LSU fans talk about Nick Saban going to Alabama. Well, the LSU job wasn't open. He took the best job available. It's a similar situation. The Saints job isn't open. So Sean Payton was always going to come back and coach, but he's going to coach somewhere else where they have an opening.
I've already kind of went over this, but I just don't think it's like that. You know, like if Nick Saban wanted to go back to LSU, like if he wanted to go back, you know, like would they have told him no? Like, you know, I think that's putting a lot of faith in this like idea of like ethics and this idea of, I guess, like doing the right thing.
But with every loss, it's more and more of a possibility that the Saints could move on from Dennis Allen.
Oh, he's gone.
It's something that I have flatly said I endorse at this point. And y'all know.
I think this was filmed today. Either today or like a day ago. But I don't think there's any doubt that Dennis Allen's gone. I mean, it's crazy. I hear people in the New Orleans media who are just now coming around to Dennis Allen. I mean, he has ruined the culture. He has ruined the scheme, the everything with this team. He has to go. There isn't like a hey man, maybe we should fire Dennis Allen. It's like, hey, we have to fire Dennis Allen to save the franchise. Like he's tanking. It's like if the captain of the Titanic, halfway as the boat is sinking down, if people on board were like, man, you know what? I'm starting to think we shouldn't let this guy captain anymore. It's like the ship is sinking. There's not an option. We got to survive. Like we can't be worried about if he can captain again. He's already sank the ship. We already hit the iceberg. That's not even a question. We just got to get off the boat first.
No, I'm not fire the coach guy. I've never been fire the coach guy.
I am.
But what I do know is, and I believe, is the New Orleans Saints are not going to win anything of significance for as long as Dennis Allen is their coach.
Yes.
He's not a general. He can't do this job.
He never
Great
has.
defensive coordinator, by all accounts, a great guy who's liked and respected. All that, and it's just
that
wonderful.
part doesn't matter.
But not every lieutenant's meant to be a general. That's Dennis Allen, from my view. So now you're sitting here you're creating new ways to lose.
Yep.
You blow up a 2-touchdown lead on Monday Night Football.
Yep.
Which, for all intents and purposes, ends your season. You're going to play out the string over these final 4 games. And the question is, how bad can it get?
It's already been rock bottom.
You're playing Atlanta and a rookie quarterback. You're at Cleveland, at Philly, against Deshaun Watson, and then against the best team in the NFL, the Eagles. And then you're hoping against Carolina, which controls its destiny in the NFC South.
At home.
If you lose out here and you finish the season on a 6-game losing streak and you finish 4-13, you got to fire him.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't even, again, this conversation has taken a turn because we're talking about Dennis Allen. That shit is over. The only way Dennis Allen is going to come back next year is if we win out. If we beat Philly and we went out and all this other stuff, and that's the only way I could see where it's like, all right, we're picking up steam, we have momentum, we have whatever. But if we lose every game except Carolina, or we beat Carolina and Atlanta, but if we split these games, like who cares? Who gives a shit? Who cares? What's the difference between 3 wins and 5 wins? You know, like it's over. It's over because you can tell that's so result oriented too. Like the great Michael Lombardi, former NFL executive for the Patriots, and the Browns. He always talks about, you know, in these moments you need to see like what team who the teams are playing for. You know, are teams playing for their coach? Are they still playing hard? Are they still doing things? Is there a scheme? Is there is there something there? Is there something tangible you can see? Are the teams doing something? And you can see the Saints aren't. You can see the Saints aren't doing something. They don't have a scheme. They don't have a style. They don't have a plan. And that's all because of Dennis Allen. I think the Saints are still playing hard. I don't think they've given up because of that, because they have pride, but they aren't playing for Dennis Allen. And we watched an Alvin Kamara video where he was answering questions from the media, and he was taking shots, I thought, at Pete Carmichael and Dennis Allen. Like these guys, there is a divide with, and the record and all that stuff does not matter at all at this point. It's all about what you see on the field, his personnel, his rotations, who he has in certain spots, his decision making, all that. And it's been so bad. I mean, you have to get rid of him. Have to.
Because the situation he inherited wasn't bad enough that there's any justification for winning 4 games. Or honestly, winning 5 or 6 games with this team.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
You had a better quarterback situation this year than you did a year ago, even with the injuries. You were better at, you remember, like, Marquez Callaway was your number 1 receiver a year ago.
Yeah, I mean, this team is way better than last year. I mean, this team should have won the South this year. I mean, really, the only thing they're bad at, like roster-wise, the only thing they're bad at really is coach. I mean, you could argue at certain points of the season they had a ton of injuries on the offensive line, and they've had some injuries in the secondary, but there isn't like a gaping roster hole that would explain why the season has been this bad. The only real downgrade has been the coach. I mean, like he said, Marquez Callaway was the number 1. Trevor Siemian was starting games. You know, we are so much better roster-wise right now. And look what he's doing with it. He's giving Alvin Kamara 8 touches. He's giving Taysom 2 touches. You know, he just can't do it. I mean, bottom line, he just can't do it.
Marquez Callaway was your number 1 receiver a year ago. You're healthier. You've had better weapons, better options.
And the division is way down.
And even his defense, Dennis Allen's defense, his defense stunk for the first half of this year. That's his defense. So,
and the division is terrible.
I think you're at a point where there's a real possibility, depending on how the next 4 weeks go, regardless of what Mrs. Benson and Mickey Loomis have as their standard operating procedure, that if this gets bad enough, you get to a point where you have to move on from him.
He's gone.
And if Sean Payton is a legit option, remember, the Saints do retain his rights for the next 2 years. Why not have a reunion? He is an organization builder. I'll tell you this. The situation that Sean Payton inherited in 2006 was devastatingly worse.
Oh, yeah.
He did.
That's something, too. Like, every time I hear these conversations, two things. The first thing is, the first conversation that has to be held is with Peyton and the Saints, regardless. Because either he's getting traded somewhere or he's coming back. He can't do anything without the Saints being involved. He can't go to the Chargers or the Panthers or wherever without the Saints. The Saints will have a seat at the table no matter what. So the fact that they have to have that conversation is already a foot in the door for a chance for him to come back. Number two is that everyone acts like this is like the longest hiatus. You know, like this would be Peyton coming back to coach 10 years after he left. It hasn't even been a year. You know? This is his roster. Like, he's organization building. This is his team. These are his players. This is the exact same team plus Chris Olave. That's it. I mean, like, it's not like he's inheriting some broken down organization and he's got to rebuild it. He already built this organization. He said that this team is better than the 2006 situation. This team is better than his last season situation, where everyone was hurt and Trevor Siemian was the starting quarterback. This team is already an upgrade. I mean, it honestly kind of blows my mind how people are viewing this whole thing. I mean, to me, the writing is on the wall. He took a vacation, bottom line. Drew Brees retired. He, took a vacation, and that's it. That's really all she wrote. And now he's done with the vacation. And now he has to come back to New Orleans, at least to discuss where he's going to go next. So if that's the case, is it that far-fetched that he just stays?
Didn't have a quarterback then either. The roster was a mess. You were a vagabond team. You didn't even know if you had a building to play in or a city to come home to. And look what he did. He can do it again. Rested, recharged, ready to roll.
I mean, how crazy is that? He can rebuild this team again. He can rebuild the organization again. It's already built. What's he rebuilding? What's he rebuilding? This is his squad. The only thing he would have to do is find his quarterback. Let's pretend Aaron Rodgers comes to New Orleans. If Aaron Rodgers is the starting quarterback for New Orleans next year, and Sean Payton is the head coach, and everything stays the same, Kamara, Olave, let's say Michael Thomas is back because he's obviously on contract. Let's say Lattimore's back, all the defense is back, whatever. That's like his best team in the last 5 years. Like, that roster is incredible. The rebuild's done. I mean, you telling me that Aaron Rodgers with Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, and Chris Olave, the roster he's inheriting, it would be an upgrade for Rodgers. That roster is better than what Green Bay has. Like, that's another part that I think is funny, is that the roster isn't bad in New Orleans. The results are bad in New Orleans. And the results are bad in New Orleans because of Dennis Allen and Pete Carmichael. I mean, it's crazy to think. Like, I mean, again, this is off the cuff, but this would be the best roster Peyton had since the Rams, the no-call debacle, where we were probably the best team in the NFL. I mean, like, because the last year of Breeze, you could argue that Breeze was a below-average quarterback at that time. He was so hurt and all this other stuff. So having a Rodgers would be like an upgrade. I mean, there is no rebuild that has to be done.
I would even submit that if he's legitimately interested in taking the Saints job again, I don't care what happens the next 4 games. Sean Payton's a Hall of Fame coach. Who would want to coach your team again? You let the Hall of Fame coach your team again.
I said that 20 minutes ago.
Regardless of the cost.
I said that 20 minutes ago.
Because you'll make it up with winning.
It's nuts. It's nuts that he came to this conclusion. But at the beginning of the video, he was saying, like, well, I mean, why would we consider Sean Payton? We have Dennis Allen. And again, if Dennis Allen wins 9 games, 10 games, and Sean Payton knocks on that door, see you, Dennis. Hey, man. Sorry, pal. See you. Bye-bye. Go on, Pecan.
Hadn't considered it. Because I didn't think Dennis Allen, there was a realistic possibility he could be a one and done. That's a realistic possibility now. And so too is Sean Payton returning to New Orleans. I'm not saying it's likely. What I am saying is it's possible. It's plausible. And with every Saints loss, you get closer and closer to that becoming a reality.
I don't think that matters.
The conversation is a week from today after the Saints host a rookie quarterback making his first start in the Dome. See how that one goes.
I don't think, I've already said this, but I don't think that matters at all. The Saints, look, I will go a step further since I'm seeing things clear. I think Sean Payton coaching in New Orleans next year is not only plausible, but I will say it's the favorite. It's the odds-on favorite to happen because of how much stuff has to happen for him to go somewhere else. That's something else no one's talking about. What's easier? Firing Dennis Allen's punk ass and hiring Sean Payton? Or finding a suitor for Sean Payton that both Sean Payton wants to go to and the team wants to make the trade? Making the trade, like, what has more hoops? Unless Sean Payton flat out does not want to coach in New Orleans, which it sounds like he has expressed interest in possibly coaching here, the only way I would say, like, hey, look, this isn't possible at all, is if Payton came out and said it. But he has not. He said the opposite. He has said, I am interested in New Orleans. So that, plus the fact that he's already under contract here, all those things, to me, make this the favorite, this the high thing. And talk about genius move by Sean Payton. If I'm Sean Payton, coming back now is even better because now the fans know what life looks like without you. So even if you come back and go, 500, the fans are going to be ecstatic. The fans would riot in the streets for 9 wins. The fans would build a statue of Sean Payton for 10 wins. They'd do anything to win the division, to go to the playoffs after 3 wins with Dennis Allen. So not adding that it's the best time for Sean Payton to come back because it's the highest possible time that the city wants him back. If Dennis Allen wins 12 games this year and Payton wants to come back, we fire Dennis Allen, Payton comes back, Payton wins 7 games, you're going to have people saying we should have stuck with Dennis Allen. There ain't nobody right now that would be saying we should have stuck with Dennis Allen unless Payton goes over next year. Think about that. He could come back and win 7 games and be celebrated. That's such a good opportunity for Payton. It's such an easy entry back, right? It's like the Chargers get thrown around. It's way harder for the Chargers to fire Brent Staley than it is for the Saints to fire Dennis Allen. I think, I'll say it right now, ladies and gentlemen, Sean Payton is coaching in New Orleans next year.